What's up, everybody? It's the Poppin T podcast here with your host, Poppin T. As usual, Poppin T. Pop, what tea you got for us today, man?
So the tea for today is that the Baltimore Ravens are 3-point favorites against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. How are we feeling about that?
I feel good about it, man. I don't think the game would be as close as the spread puts it. Um, I think them boys will handle business. But it's interesting. I think this might be maybe the third time in Pat's playoff career that he's been the underdog.
Wow.
He was a 1.5 underdog against the Eagles last year, ended up winning that game, um, and was 3-point favorites today against Buffalo, ended up winning that game. Um, so he's always going to fight whether he's the underdog or he's the favorite. So we'll see what happens come Sunday. How you feel about it?
Feel great. How about our Baltimore Ravens being in the AFC Championship game? Got to be pretty excited about that one.
Woo! Man,
Yeah.
it's a crazy feeling. We haven't been in one since 2012, man, and it wasn't home. We were in Foxborough. So to finally get one at home, I think the last time we had one was in the 1970s. And I wasn't even a nut yet.
That's not
So
that's not the Ravens.
nah, it was the
That's
Baltimore
that's
Colts. It
I'm
wasn't
just
even nuts.
I'm so excited to see this team finally get there, to see Lamar finally get there. It's been so long, so many conversations about how he's not good enough in the playoffs, how he's letting people down in the playoffs, and he got it done. And we're gonna see the Ravens play this Sunday against the Chiefs. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one.
Excited. I'm excited for it, man.
So let's talk about the Ravens versus Texans. It was a great game. I was
Mhm.
very jacked up yesterday watching it. First half, a little nervous, a little shaky, but
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
took care of business in the second half. Let's talk some players of the game. Who are your players of the game?
I'm gonna just do one. Obviously, the correct answer is Lamar, but I'm gonna give it up to Matabike, man. He had a hell of a game for us yesterday. I know we didn't have any sacks yesterday, but he was just constantly in CJ Stroud's face, pushing the interior three just back into his lap every play. He had 7 pressures yesterday, which is insane, man. That's insane from an interior D lineman for a guy that's getting double teamed every play just to be back there 7 times.
Crazy.
Just constantly had CJ out of the pocket, had him uncomfortable. Couldn't find what's his name, Nico Collins, because he didn't have time in the pocket. He was always on the move. So Meek stepped up and had a great game for us in that defense. A lot of credit to him for getting that dub.
I feel like
This Saturday.
every single time I was watching CJ step back to throw the ball, he was scrambling out right because Matabike was chasing after him. And
In his face.
we talked about this earlier this week. We were talking about players that we thought we were going to have a big game, and we highlighted
Yep.
Matabike as one of those players. We were talking, saying those tackles for the Texans, they've been playing good all season, but that interior O-line has been a little shaky, and we saw just that yesterday. Even the other D tackles, Travis Jones had a big game. Michael Pierce had a big game. Roderick Washington was getting after it. I mean,
Yep.
all those DTs against that interior Texans offensive line, they handled business. I mean, holding that Texans rushing game to 38 rushing yards. I mean,
Insane.
that's how you do your job as a
Yeah,
NFL D tackle. And they
definitely. I would say I definitely yeah, I just wanted to shout out to the big boys up front. I know you're just giving them a shout out, but Broderick, Pierce, and then Matabike, man, those are some hustling dudes. Because like even just aside from the pressures and aside from the run game, if you were to go back and watch that film and watch who were making tackles on the sideline, it was the interior D line. If a play got stretched out, man, they were on it. They never gave up on the play. I remember there was a play where CJ rolled out right because of the pressure. Michael Pierce disengaged from his guard, his center, and chased him down to the sideline and made him throw an errant pass. And just to see a guy that's 300, probably 50 plus pounds, moving that well, that
I know
fast, with
exactly
that
the
much
play.
hustle, it's insane. So I wanted to shout out those guys real quick because they had a hell of a game.
Those guys were moving all day long. For my play of the game, I'm just gonna give it up to Lamar. he was looking great all game. The Texans
Definitely.
had certainly had a good game plan for him coming out early, just getting bodies around him, trying to keep him contained in the pocket, not letting him go. Even
Yeah.
still, he scrambled for 100 yards on the day. Just to go over the stats for Lamar, 16 for 22, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, and then on the ground, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's Lamar Jackson. I mean,
Action
he
Jackson, baby.
he's efficient. He made all the big throws in the big moments. And in that second half, he was just playing loose. They were giving him some more stuff underneath to kind of combat that blitz, and he just was taking what was there, and that was the story of the game. He didn't look phased coming out of that locker room after the second half. So I
Not
got
at
to
all.
give it up to 8. He did his job and did it perfectly.
Yeah, eight went to the sideline, went to the locker room at halftime, pissed off. We'll see if we can try to put the video somewhere. I mean the photo, but Lamar was pissed off. There was a play, kind of QB power to the left, where Gus stealed his guy, and the outside was open. It was a safety, Stanley Lamar, and Stanley kind of blocked on Gus's guy instead of continuing up the field and blocking the safety. If he would have kept up the field, Lamar probably would have broke it 15, 20 yards. And you kind of just see like Lamar sputter on the ground. And I was kind of, at first, I was like, what's going on? Is he good? And then I realized
Spasm.
he was spazzing at Stanley. So just to see him kind of grow and mature and step up in that role to being a vocal leader and a verbal quarterback, I think it made all the difference in between 2019, 2020, and now. He's just one of those guys that seems like when he talks, they listen. So to see him kind of get into Stanley's ass, and then see how Stanley kind of performed after that, because we
Yeah.
went back to that play. We went back to Stanley Lamar on the outside. And both times it went for first downs.
Big
And then we
runs
scored on
too.
it later. Yeah, big runs. So just to see two guys who are kind of, at that highest caliber of player, and seeing them be able to talk to each other. All right, let's fix this. Let's work on this, and let's get back to it. I think that was huge. I think that was something that we didn't really see in 2019. It's kind of once they punched us in the mouth, we didn't really respond to it. It was kind of it. But to see the fight in those guys this year and be like, all right, man, we got to step
It's a
this
different
up.
team.
It's a completely different team.
It's a different team.
And I think with those being two guys that were cornerstones of the last team, they kind of both know, like, hey, man, we've seen this before. We got to step this up.
And
So
Ronnie's a veteran.
yeah,
I'm glad Lamar is speaking up to everyone on that team because everyone needs to be held accountable. This is the year to get it done if you're the Baltimore Ravens, and
100%.
no one can be slacking. And I
Yeah,
like to see Lamar keeping them accountable for sure.
yeah.
I know these aren't players of the game, but I really want to highlight both of our coordinators in this game. Let's just start with Mike McDonald
The
holding
demon.
the Houston Texans to 3 points
The
on defense.
demon. He's a demon, man. He's a demon. You about to make my heart start pumping. There was one team, they hold the Texans out of the end zone the entire year. It was us in 2 games.
Two
We
games.
held them to 9 the first game and 3 the second game. Uh, I'm almost speechless, man. It
And
brings tears to my eyes. There was no Marlowe out there yesterday, and you couldn't tell. Like there
yeah,
was no difference of Marlowe not being out there, man. It shows how much these guys are invested to Mac in this scheme. And it's plug and play, man. Ronald Darby was out there looking like the old Ronald Darby. He's looking like a cornerback one out there.
first play of the game.
It's just it was disgusting, man. To see them all out there doing it like they do, and just to be able to stop CJ from making those big plays that we're used to seeing him make. Um, just to
Everyone
keep. Go
everyone
ahead.
was just flying around. I mean, it started up front with like we said with the D tackles, but anytime it was out to the flats, people were swarming to the football. They ran so many reverse plays trying to set up blockers in front of players, and
Yeah,
nothing could develop because whether it was Gino, whether it was Kyle, whether it was Pat, whether it was Roquan, Everyone's flying to the football. And even when they would break the first tackle, there's three guys behind them
Yeah,
making the tackle. I mean, that
it's a
Xavier Hutchinson play, I think it was like four different turnarounds where they were tossing it
there
at
was
different
nowhere to
players.
go. There was
And
nowhere for him to go.
everyone just flew to him after the blocker set up, and I think it might have went for 2 yards. I mean, that was the story of the game. Everyone
And
flying the football.
on that specific play too, I think there was only one guy out there. Like he should have scored. Like
Mhm.
I think it was
It was
Brandon
Gino.
Stevens maybe. Oh, yeah, that's who it was. It was
It was
Gino. There was three
Gino.
linemen, and there was nobody else. And like he should have scored, but just because of how fast everybody flies to the ball, um, they were just able to get up on them, wrap them up. And it's impressive to what they do week in and week out. Like to play at that high level, play at that standard week in and week out, it's insane. And to see that not falter come playoffs, with your back against the wall, you're going out there every drive, and your offense just isn't scoring points. It's hard as a defense to continue to go out there and to continue doing that. So just to watch them keep them out of their own 25 the entire game, like the Texans did not get past their 25-yard line.
It's beautiful.
That's insane, man. That's
It's a
insane.
beautiful
Like
thing to
this,
watch.
to say you held somebody out of the end zone is one thing, but to say you held them from out of 25 yards is another. Like there was a drive where the Texans were at like the 35-yard line and they didn't gain another yard.
Yeah.
Like that's
If anything, they went
insane, man.
back.
Yeah, they with the false starts, and that's another thing. Shout out to the flock.
Yeah.
Shout out to Baltimore, man, for having that stadium rocking. Um,
I've never
I
heard a
wasn't
sound like
there.
that on TV.
No, I think the only game that I've heard personally as loud as that was when we beat Pat Mahomes, and I believe it was 2021, maybe, with that Odafe strip sack.
Yep.
That stadium, it was definitely loud. But you could hear it through the TV on Saturday, man, how loud that crowd was. And I'm just sitting there. I'm in New Jersey, and I'm just thinking, man, like I love my city, man. Like I love my fan base. Um, because you could just see they were flustered out there, man. The O line couldn't hear anything.
You got
Um,
literally players pointing to their helmets because they can't hear anything before
can't
the.
hear you.
Yeah.
And it's so hard as an offensive lineman to not have sound. Like you need sound as an O lineman to operate. Like the guards can flash to the center and be like, hey, we got to snap, but like everybody got to be on the same page. Otherwise, twist game blitzes, cadence stuff like that, you'll get messed up. So just shout out to the flock for having that thing definitely loud. Um, and just shout out to that defense. It was a 12th man today or yesterday. Um, M&T Bank Stadium is generally one of the loudest stadiums in America.
Not
Um,
talked about enough.
it's not, but the players know. Every player that has to come in there and play knows, but the fans, everybody else doesn't really know. But there was an excerpt from Pat Mahomes talking about it. And then Taylor Lewan and Derrick Henry were just talking about it last week in the 2019 divisional matchup. Saying it was definitely loud, especially when Lamar gets introduced, man. That stadium erupts.
It's nothing
I've
like it.
never seen anything. I don't even think it got that loud for Ray, to be honest. Like Ray did his dance and all that, and used to have that stadium rocking. But it's something about eight with the towel around his neck, hands in the jersey pockets coming out like this, man. It does something to that city.
It does.
Um, so shout out to the flock, shout out to the 12th man the other day. We talked about Mac. I'm gonna flip it over to you for Todd. Talk to me about what you saw from Todd on Saturday.
Right away, you noticed that it was the Lamar show. It wasn't him having to be Superman, but throughout this season, I feel like we've seen a Lamar that's been a little bit more careful with his scrambles. He's a little bit more cerebral. He's looking downfield. He's looking at the people coming at him. Today or yesterday, it was playoff time. Like, forget the injuries. Like, body on the line. Go get the first down. Go get the big run. Get us in the end zone. It was Lamar early and often all game, which I loved out of Monken. And D'Amico, he did a great job of adjusting to that in turn. They were all over Lamar, sending bodies. Christian Harris was a menace yesterday,
Oh my God.
all over the place. They were sending blitzes. They were doing some loops inside with the defensive lineman, which I definitely expected to see. And
Yeah.
it had Lamar flustered. He couldn't scramble. They weren't able to get guys open. And I remember saying it right before half, like we got to see some adjustments, and we got to see them now because we're not moving the football, and this defense can't keep getting these stops just for us to go three and out. And
Definitely.
right after the half, I don't know if it was the first play on offense, but just a little get Justice out to the flat, and Lamar just took it, and it's like an 8 yard little flat pass, and like that was what I wanted to see was just an adjustment, get people going, get Lamar to throw the ball into the hands of the playmakers, and
Yep.
not have him sitting in the pocket for so long, and it just opened everything up so quick. It opened up the run game. It opened up the deeper passes down the field because they couldn't just blitz everyone if you're leaking guys out and giving him the easy stuff because that was what we saw in the first half. And it was just a beautiful adjustment. I don't know if we're seeing that out of Greg Roman, but Monken made the adjustment and it was 24 unanswered after the half, which
Yeah.
is that's an adjustment if I've
That's
seen
definitely.
one.
Yeah, definitely. Like you had touched on it real quick, but I just wanted to touch on Christian Harris real quick. Um, that boy came to play yesterday. He was ready for the playoff atmosphere. Bama boy, only 23, but boy, he was ready for the moment. I think it was 3rd and 11. Lamar was in the pocket. The pocket kind of broke down, and he scrambled out right. And normally, like when eight goes to scramble, and it's him out there in the linebacker, like eight is winning that matchup. Um, and he tried
Nine
to
out
go
of
hit the
10
head
times.
juke on Christian Harris, and he just racked him up. He was ready for him. And then another time he's rolling out the pocket, LJ again to his right, and you're thinking he's getting out of this. Lamar Jackson, the linebacker, in open space, he's running that, and he was able to kind of get his shoestrings and to wrap him up. So shout out to him, hell of a game from him yesterday. He had 7 tackles. It was just all over the place.
Definitely
Um,
took the smell and salt before the game. I mean, that dude,
oh,
there
100%.
was nothing behind his eyes when they focused in on him after a big play. It was just he was a maniac yesterday.
Blank face yesterday, just cold face killer. So yeah, hell of a game from him. But like you were saying, man, about Todd, those halftime adjustments. Shout out to him. And shout out to Devin Duvernay for getting it started.
Yes,
Devin Duvernay with that big kick return was pushed out of bounds at the 45
set the tone.
for a 37-yard return to set the tone, man. That's how you come out of halftime and set the tone. After that, it was a short pass, 9 yards to Aguilar, 19 yards to Likely, 3 yards run for Lamar, scramble for Lamar, pass to Bateman for 9 yards, incomplete to Likely, and then Lamar finishing off for a 15-yard run. Um,
Just how he
it was
drew it
just
up.
it was just nice. It was just little yards, positive yards, positive yards, positive yards, positive yards, and then finishing off with a Lamar run. There was no negative yards on that drive, just the incomplete pass. Um, and we didn't even get the third down that drive. Um, Longest it got to was 2nd and 10, and then Lamar scored on that next play. So yeah, just to see them come out to half the way they did. Um, I, let me ask you, man, what do you think Lamar said to those guys at halftime? Because he obviously said something.
You know, I think that he was talking to the O line. I think based on how much pressure was getting in, I know he was heated and he knows how good that unit is.
Yeah,
We've seen it all season. We've seen it for 4 years. No matter what the weapon situation has been in Baltimore, those offensive lines have been top of the top. Like
100%.
getting push, no matter what scheme. Uh, Great pass protectors, and they did not show up like that unit at the beginning of the game. I think he told them like, you guys are one of the best offensive lines in football. Maybe not with that type of language, but
Not
I
at all.
mean, you guys need to start playing like it right now because you're better than this. And they came out and it was the Ravens offensive line, if not better. We were getting push up front. I think the run game really clicked into gear. Obviously the pass protection was different, but the offensive line in general, both phases just they adjusted, and I think that's what Lamar was saying to him.
Definitely. I just kind of laughed at myself the other day. I just was imagining Lamar calling Kevin Zeitler a jit, like all throughout the halftime, trying to get him to lock in.
What?
And
How
just
old is he?
Zeitler,
Like 36?
yeah, like he has no idea what that words mean.
He's
So like he
never
was
been
probably
called that
there
in his
confused.
life.
Never. So I was just laughing about that the other day. But like you said, man, that O line stepped it up. I got it written down. Yesterday, the pressures allowed. John Simpson had 3 pressures allowed. Zeitler had 2. Morgan Moses and Linderbaum had 1, and then Stanley and McCarry both had 0.
I
And like
love
you said,
that.
in that first half, it was bad.
Mhm.
They were back there, they were on them. But they locked in that second half. And like you said, the run game, we ran for over 200 yards yesterday. The run game really took on. Great game. Well, obviously, Lamar had 100. But Justice looked good yesterday, man. And Gus is just a wrecking
Shot out of
ball.
a cannon.
Yeah.
Justice Hill, every time he gets a little dump down pass, it's north and south, quick,
I genuinely
acceleration.
think as a linebacker, you'd have better luck trying to run through a brick wall than you do trying to tackle Gus Edwards one-on-one. He's damn near like Henry when it comes to that. He's just not getting tackled by the first guy.
He's always
Um,
getting that extra 2 or 3.
and shout out to Dalvin Cook, man. Shout out to Dalvin Cook.
Little
Little
juice.
Florida boy.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Looked like me out there. He looked like me. But I would say he got that stretch to the right. That's probably the first time he's got up to the safety untouched all year.
Yeah. It's
So
a
shout out
different
to the
offensive line, but
definitely. I can imagine running behind that Jets O line, but yeah, shout out to Davin. Got a little juice left in the tank. Look good. I like it.
and last thing just about this game is Ronnie, he's gotten a lot of criticism all season. A lot of people have been calling him washed, and I am not one to say that I didn't call him that either. But
100%.
look, he in the late stretch of the season, especially this game, for him to come out and play like that high paid left tackle that he is, that guy in 2019 was the best left tackle in football, in my opinion. To see him play like that again, especially when it matters now, I mean, that's all you can ask for out of your left tackle. 0 pressures against Will Anderson, Jonathan Grenard, and Derek Barnett.
Yeah,
Guys who've been playing great all season. Like, you'll take that any day of the week.
100%. Yeah, just to go off of that, man. I love that game from him. And I love that Mud can trust him as a left tackle. To put him out there by himself in a lot of the schemes. Because normally, like Pat Ricard, Colaire, likely, if they block, they're normally helping on that right side. So to see him leave him out there on the island means a lot. And just to see that when it comes down to it, when it's time to run the ball, it's Lamar and Stanley. It should be your highest paid tackle, your left tackle, and your quarterback getting it done. So just to see that connection between them two, and like we said earlier, Lamar being able to yell at him and talk to him, and for him to be able to adjust and straighten that out. And then when we scored that last touchdown, seeing them two in the I don't know what you want to call it, like the
The tunnel.
walkway, I guess, to get the tunnel together, see them take the photos, the big trust together. It means a lot because those boys obviously love each other. They've been together in that locker room for a long time.
That's
Um,
probably two of the oldest players or two of the longest tenured offensive players.
yeah, I
So
think it is. I think it's them two. I think in general, it's probably Tucker is probably the longest. But besides them, you getting to Stanley, you getting to Marlowe, and you get to Lamar Mandrews as the guys who've been there the longest. And just one more thing before we move on, touching on that O line. D'Amico Ryan was a madman yesterday. On average, he only blitzes 23% of the time. Like as a defense coordinator between Houston and San Francisco, 23%. Yesterday, he sent the blitz 67% of
oh
plays.
my gosh.
That is insane. To be sending pressure 67% of the plays, man. Shout out to that O line again. Like when you really think about that number of 5 total pressures allowed at 67% blitz clip, that's insane, man. So I know them boys are probably iced up in the game ready, Norman Tank, whatever they're doing right now, because I know their bodies are hurting.
Yeah.
But as a
That's an
big boy,
onslaught.
onslaught, just full out engaging. But yeah, just as a big boy, wanted to give them a shout out real quick for being able to hold it down for Lamar, man.
Yep. all starts in the trenches. That's the way it's
All
been.
stars, all stars, and let me touch on one last guy. Big 8-0. Big likely. I love him. I love it. I love it. I love it. Over his last 7, man, 23 receptions, 356 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 15.5 yards per catch.
Sounds like another tight end.
Sounds like another All-Pro guy, if
Yeah.
you ask me. The boy's been hooping, man. He stepped up in a big way. Another touchdown yesterday. And I just love the connection him and
Mossing
Lamar
Derek
have.
Stingley, by the way.
That's the top corner in the league, man. Top corner in the league. So yeah, just shout out to Likely. Shout out to them big boys up front. Just shout out to the offense for getting it done, man.
No doubt. So let's move on to next Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Sure.
What are we expecting out of this game against the Kansas City Chiefs?
I'm expecting another big game from the defense. If you're going to beat Pat, it starts on defense. Because you just saw Josh Allen lose that game, and it's like he had a. If you ask me, Josh Allen had a good game, but it just wasn't enough. And sometimes a great game, good game from your quarterback just isn't enough. Or Pat Mahomes is on the other side of the ball. So it's up to Roquan, PQ, beating up on Travis Kelce every time he crosses the field. We expect 14 to kind of follow him, kind of follow Travis Kelce for the majority of the game. But if that defense shows up to play like they did last week and they have all season, man, I expect us to walk out of there with like a 34-23 type of game. The spread is -3 for the Ravens, but I don't think it'll be that close if that defense comes to play like it should.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think I'm expecting fireworks from both sides early, but when it comes down to it, I think we're just going to score on more possessions. It's going to be a defensive dogfight, but I do think that we keep it going with Lamar all day long, and Mahomes is going to hit a brick wall at some point during that game, and those guys are going to be making plays. So I'm expecting something similar. 34-23 does sound pretty good. I'm gonna say 31-21. I think Mahomes gets 3 touchdowns, but Lamar's gonna make more plays when it comes down to it. So let's
Yeah.
do our player that we think will go off and our player that needs to go off real quick. I'll start off. Player that I think will go off. I think Lamar goes off this week. I think in this caliber of game at the bank against arguably the best quarterback in football, he's going to show he's the MVP. I don't think that he comes out flat. I think he is humming the whole game. So that's my player that I think will go off. Player that needs to go off, a guy that we've highlighted, Kyle Hamilton. I think he's going to be running around with Travis Kelce all day. That's Mahomes' number one target. And I think Kyle's up for the challenge. A lot of people call him Spider-Man just because his arm length, the way he's able to just appear where the ball is. And I think Spider-Man, he's going to be all over Kelce all day. And Kelce's going to make his plays, sure, but if you can eliminate that guy for the most part, it's going to be a tough day for Mahomes.
100%. All right, so I'll go off of that. A guy that I think will have a big game. You already said his name. Lamar Jackson, obviously. To be the best, you got to beat the best. And it's very fitting for him to get to his first Super Bowl that he has to beat Mahomes.
Definitely.
A guy who's represented the AFC in I think 3 out of the last 4 years, maybe 4 out of the last 5. He's only lost to Burrow and Brady over the last 5 years. So yeah, I guess 3 out of the last 5 years has been Mahomes. So for him to have to get to the Super Bowl, like to beat Mahomes, that makes sense. A player that needs to have a big game. I don't think it's a player, but I think it's a position group. I think the wide receivers got to step it up this week. I don't think they necessarily had a big game. I mean, a bad game per se. But I think I need a little bit more from them, especially with Steve Spagnuolo and that Chiefs defense is a lot. To me, in my opinion, it's a lot better than that Texas defense. So I think it's going to be a lot of pressure on Lamar. I think Zay led all receivers with 4 receptions and 41 yards. I don't necessarily need anybody to go have a 100-yard game, But I would like to see some more production from them. Um, and I think if they can turn it up a notch, if Odell can be that guy, Zay can be that guy, Bateman, Nelly, I think the Ravens are destined for great things in this matchup.
We invested in that group in the offseason. It's time for them to make their money.
Yeah, we're paying Odell 15 million a year, or this year for a reason, and I need him. He only had one catch for 12 receptions. I mean, one catch for 12 yards. And I just need more out of him. I need him to turn it up a little bit. And I know he can be that guy. We saw it in the Super Bowl,
Especially
um,
under the lights. In these
especially
big
on the lights.
games,
I
I'd
need him.
love to see a long Odell touchdown.
I would
Well,
too.
we're running out of time here. Let's do one more segment. Let's talk about who we think we're going to see if we can make it past the Chiefs this week. I talked about it this week. I think that the Lions are going to get it done against the San Francisco 49ers. I think after this last game against Green Bay, they didn't show up and beat the brakes off the Packers like many people expected, especially against that Joe Barry defense, which has been suspect all season, given some middle tier quarterbacks their best games of arguably their career against that Green Bay defense. I was
Definitely.
expecting Purdy, McCaffrey, those receivers to have a day, but they did not look in sync. I think that the Lions are locked in right now. They're hungry. And I think at the end of the day, they've just got a little bit more going. And they can squeak past the Niners. I think it's going to be a really, really good game though.
Yeah. I think it is going. No, I don't. I don't think it's going to be a good game. Um, I expected the Packers to play the 49ers like they did. I really thought Jordan Love had a chance to upset. And it's not like a recency game bias just because he did that to Dallas. Um, but when you LaFleur against Shanahan, there's just two guys that really know each other. And when you really know somebody, even when it's just like playing Madden, you know their tendencies, you know what they like to do. It's easier for you to attack that. But pulling the Lions out of Detroit, I just don't trust them to get it done. Um, to me, they barely got it done against the Rams, and they barely got it done against the Bucks. They just been surviving to me. And if Baker doesn't throw that late game interception, they might lose that game. Obviously, it didn't happen, but um, I think the 49ers, just like us, it took them some time to get that rust off. Um, but I expect them to steamroll the Lions this weekend. And send those boys back to Detroit. I think if the game were in Detroit, I think it would be a little different. I would expect Detroit to get it done, but just in Levi Stadium, I don't trust Jared Goff to get it done. I
Fair
don't think
enough.
he had a great game last week. I don't think he had a great game this week. Um, I think he played better this week than he did the week before. But yeah, I think they just been surviving, barely getting through. And I think that ends next week. So let me ask you what you got for the score over there.
I'm going to go 37-35.
37-35.
I think it's
Um,
fireworks.
so how does it end though? Is it a missed field goal? Um,
I
is it
think
a walk off touchdown? How are we getting out of there?
I think it's a walk-off touchdown for Jared Goff and the Lions. I think that
Okay.
they miss an extra point at some point during this game. Um, and they drive down the field at the end, and they don't give Brock Purdy a chance. Maybe they give him like 40 seconds, but I think I think it ends with Goff getting his guys in the end zone. What's your score
Wow.
prediction?
Um, I think initial thought is like 45-14. Um, I genuinely think they're gonna.
Wow.
I genuinely. I know it's a hot take. I know it's crazy. Like the
One of
Lions are
us is
talking.
going to be very wrong.
Yeah, very, very. And I don't want to just kind of blow them off the Lions because they've had a hell of a year. Um, I don't know, man. I just don't trust them outside of Detroit, out of Ford Field. So we'll see.
I guess we're going to see.
Yeah, I like Shanahan going back to the Super Bowl again. I don't know how he keeps doing it. I don't know how he keeps getting away with this. Because like they just drafted Nick in the first. Like they went to the playoffs, went to the Super Bowl. Everybody got hurt. They drafted Nick, and they went back to the Super Bowl. And I think this is the third consecutive NFC Championship.
It's wild.
Um, so I don't know how he keep doing it, man. But shout out to him. Shout out to that team. And I think that'll be our Super Bowl matchup. We got about a minute left before the time runs out, man. Who do you in the Super Bowl? How do you got to go?
Um, I mean, I got my boys, but if it's the Ravens versus anyone, I like them.
Definitely.
Well,
Um,
I just want to say thank you to everyone that listened to us today. We're happy to be doing this project. Um, we've been having fun with it, and we hope you guys have been having fun with it too. And we hope you stick around for the ride because we got a lot of content coming your way. And hopefully, this next episode is us talking about a win against the Kansas City Chiefs.
and then hopefully after that, it's a one against the 49ers, man. And I
Or the
will say,
Lions.
order lines. Just to give y'all a little, I guess, little not a preview, but if we do win that Super Bowl, we will have a Baltimore Raven on the podcast for you. We won't say just who yet, but it is in the works. So we get that ring, we get that silver. Just be prepared for a guest to be on the show with us.
Great. Thanks for listening to us.